Thank you very much for having me. I appreciate it. So I'm just going to get in jump right in. I am a state representative that flipped a district in Denton County in 2018 with none of the traditional support. So I'm used to being the underdog. And we do have to get in there and directly get our voters out there. And we have to get Democrats voting in the Democratic primary. In fact, today my team has contacted over 100,000 voters directly today because that is how we're going to get them to the polls. We have to have record turnout with all these people who've newly registered. We need to get them to the polls. So I carried the bills that Mike Collier just talked about and got them farther than anybody has on property tax reform. I have carried bills on, I've sat on the elections committee, defended your right to vote. In fact, I got my legislative priority, which was vote centers for Denton County. That was some rather boring legislation that became not boring, but fixed it so that we can have election day vote centers, and Denton County is in the in the process of actually getting that done. In fact, I worked with Liberty County because I'm the only elected Democrat state rep in my area. I work with Republicans on a daily basis as an elected official. I have the most experience that any of the other candidates have. I've won an election in a place where we need to win elections. And then I improved my margin in 2020 when we didn't have straight ticket voting. And the reality is we are going to win Texas in the suburbs. We are contacting in Denton and Collin County. There are more voters in Denton and Collin County alone, Democratic leaning voters, than the Valley. And I plan on bringing them to the polls. And so we have to do all of it, as well as carry places where we need to, but it can't just be Beto contacting voters and then everybody else writing in. It has to be everybody contacting voters. And I'm sitting here right now in Denton County, and the only text I'm getting to remind myself to vote is from Beto's campaign, and that's not good enough. We have competitive races. Where are the rest of the statewide? And so we've been directly contacting voters, and hopefully you guys will get a text in your box. And thank you very much. I do have the most experience, and I am in the polls, ahead in the polls, and I just jumped in this race in November. Thank you.
Okay, we do have a question from Doug Mellon. Representative Beckley, how would you go about fixing the grid?
Sure. So being here in North Texas, I have lost power in 1989 for several days, 2011 for several days, and 2021. So us in North Texas know we have a power grid. I get brownouts all the time. I think we do have to look at our renewables. We do not have enough rooftop solar, which would take some of the pressure off the grid. We did get some bills passed that helps notify people, because one of the things that was really a problem during the grid failure this last time is that Oncor was not notifying anybody. In fact, the Oncor reps, as a sitting state rep, didn't even notify us in Denton County. And when we had a countywide meeting with them, they didn't even know where the lines were or who had power and who didn't have power. So that was really, really an issue. Now we did get that fixed. This grid issue is huge. We need to look at getting on the national grid, because that is the reality, so that we can sell and buy power as we need to the rest of the nation as well. It's another source of revenue that we can use in Texas, because we do produce a lot of power here.
We have another question from Joy Smith. Michelle, you mentioned on your website that one of your priorities is assuring election integrity. What do you mean by that?
So one of the things that we are dealing with is that in Denton County, 2,500 ballots were thrown out. People who were trying to vote, people who voted at the wrong polling location on election day. So we fixed that. Now, the other problem that we have is now we are seeing that 40% of the ballots are being thrown out of the mail-in ballots. We said that. We told them this is what's going to happen. People do not want to put their driver's license and their social security number on pieces of paper that are going to be mailed, because now we have an identity theft problem. And people have been told forever not to share those numbers. So of course, 40% of people are not putting them on the application and then the ballot itself. So as far as that, I want to make sure that every vote is counted and that every person has the option to vote. Also, we need to look into online voter registration. Quite frankly, that is the easiest thing that will help Texans in general is just getting online voter registration, get all of Texas easily registered, and then we can be competitive. But the Republicans don't want that because they lose when that happens. We have increased our voter registration here in Denton County, and a lot of counties, every time that happens, Republicans start losing because, quite honestly, they have horrible policy.
Thank you. Any other questions here? Where are we at in time, Linda? 2 minutes and 30 seconds. Okay. Oh, Adrian?
Yes, please. I'd like to ask. Thank you for being here.
Yeah.
Where the permanent school fund is addicted to fossil fuel money, and it's a huge part of the income that we need. How would you propose trying to wean ourselves from that funding so we can address climate change? Because the two can't go together.
Yeah, so we're in a transitionary period, and we also have to look at the fact that I've talked to the comptroller's office this last week or the week before, in the last couple of weeks. We have a $12 billion surplus on our current budget. I mean, so we have the resources, and that's mostly from sales tax collection. So we do have the resources to transition the funding. So we just need to redo the calculations. As far as I was also part of the session when we did get a lot of the school funding done in what was SB 3. I may have the wrong number on that, but the school funding, but it didn't work in my district. It didn't work for Louisville or Plano ISDs because we need to go back in and keep fixing that funding formula, because just because we redid it doesn't mean it's going to work for everybody. So we need to keep working on the funding formula. The biggest part of what the legislature pays for is education and healthcare. And we also didn't even mention, we do need to take the Medicaid expansion. I know that's pretty rhetorical. I can't believe we left $100 billion on the table, but I, as a small business owner, am a strong proponent for that.
Good question. 45 seconds to wrap up, Representative Beckley.
Thank you. I just really need to stress that Democrats have got to win elections. Getting close enough isn't good enough. If we do not win this election, it's one of the reasons I got into this race. The opponents in November were polling at 20%. One has gone down and one has dropped out. That is not going to win this election. We can't all get on the skirt tails of Beto. We all have to contribute. And so I have an ability to win elections as the underdog, being outspent 10-1. I'm not afraid of it. I'm running a 2022 campaign, and I'm going to continue doing that. And we'll see what happens in March 1st. Thank you.